members and even heads of institutions should be strategic competence. How do we achieve the goal that Papa Moderator has brought, that we should revisit Presbyterian discipline? What is the strategy? How do we achieve high performance? How do we impact on socio-economic development through our performance and through our discipline? We should have some people who have financial literacy. It's not everybody who has it, but at least some of the members should have some financial literacy. Because at the end of the day, when management prepares their financial statements, they will bring them to the board. They will bring them to the council. And council is supposed to look at, because we have finance committee. So the finance committee is there. We have the audit committee. All these people are supposed to look at the financial statements and validate that they are accurate, they are reliable, and they can lead to good decisions. If you don't have such people, it means your decisions will be wrong. Communication and interaction skills. Board members, council members, management members should have communicative and interactive skills. The way we talk to one another, even at meetings, when somebody is meeting, even if we don't agree with the person, how do we contribute? How do we put it? At the management level, as head of institution, how do you talk to your employees? How do you talk to your students? Is it that relationship which will bring the output or the best outcome? Or is it that you are dictating to them, and when you are not there, everything breaks down? Professional qualification, knowledge, and experience. We are looking at balance of skill. So in appointing board or council members, we are looking at these people with varied background. When it comes to human resource, when it comes to finance, when it comes to management and other areas, people from the tertiary level who have experienced how to run tertiary institutions and all that. So we bring them on board so that they bring their experience and expertise to bear on the management of the institution. So we need a balance of skill. Then character. I don't know how this will be done, but I think sometimes we look at recommendations from various, especially Presbyterian Church of Ghana, when they want to recommend somebody to serve on our councils. At least they'll ask of the background, they'll ask of how the person has behaved. If he was a head of institution, how was he behaving? How did he run the institution? If he was an accountant, how does he have any good record? Does he have the qualification? Can he perform? All these things we will look at before you are nominated. Then commitment. It's not a matter of just serving on the council. It's not a matter of serving on the board. But you should be committed to the board or the council. And you should attend meetings. Before you go to meeting, you should prepare. Study the material or study the notes, study the agenda and whatever you are going to contribute there. And then we should also look at gender balance. Now the women are performing very well. And we can't leave them behind. So in constituting councils and boards, there's a need to also consider gender. So that they will also come up and contribute, because women, they think so much about the children. Having said all this, I'll briefly go through the causes of infractions that take us to Public Accounts Committee, and this is purely management issue. It might be part of public universities or college of education. It cuts across. The first one is unqualified staff performing some duties. Sometimes, as heads of institutions, we give responsibility to people who don't have the capacity to do it. So somebody is a junior accountant. He doesn't have that experience. He is not that skillful. He is not that qualified. But because you think that he will listen to you, you decide to put him in charge of the accounting duties. So when it comes to documentation, he's fumbling. When it comes to reporting, he has a problem. Every day that you call for any record, he's stumbling here and there. So we should be very careful the people we place at certain positions. If the head of the accounts, the head of procurement, maybe assistant headmaster and all those people, you should have people who are capable and can carry out the duty. The next one is poor delegation. Sometimes you go to some institutions, a few people are doing the runs, and the rest are just idling. Because there are people who are close to the power. There are people close to the head of the institution. And then the head doesn't even call for accountability. So go and buy this thing for me. He goes to bring the thing. But he doesn't take time to even find out whether the market price is the same as the price that he bought. So when he goes to buy the item for 2-3 times and he knows that he won't act, he can decide to inflate the price or reduce the quantity and benefit from it. Lack of or weak supervision. So many schools, it is only the head. If the head is not there, nothing works. But that's why we have delegation of authority. Assistants, your vice, and the rest should be given tasks to perform and report to you. Be interested in the reports that they also bring to you. And sometimes do independent check of the reports that you receive from them. When they get to know that whatever they bring to you, you go to verify. They'll be careful when they are filing wrong reports. Lack of or poor documentation. And this is, especially in GS, this is a major challenge. And I want to advise my heads. Insist on every officer documenting. Sometimes we go to PAC, and the only problem is that fuel 500 cedis was not locked. It was not entered into the logbook. And maybe you have traveled all the way from Kumasi to Accra because of 500 Ghana cedis. How much is the fuel from Kumasi to Accra and back? The inconvenience, the time you have consumed. So for every control, money that comes into the system, the accountant is supposed to receipt it and make sure that he receives and deposits at the bank. He's supposed to prepare cash book, make sure that he does it, and then prepares bank reconciliation at the end of every month. And you as head, it is your responsibility to certify the bank reconciliation statement at the end of each month. If you practice that one, if you ask him to bring the cash book, he will not have a problem with you. Because he knows that you must look at the cash book before you can endorse. Again, if there are items to the stores, do not allow the storekeeper alone to receive the items. There should be an independent verifier. That is what the store regulation says. There should be an independent verifier. If you yourself you cannot go, let your assistant or somebody that you think can do a good job for you to be there for them to receive the items. Let him document and post into the ledger. When there are issues, make sure that you approve the request before the storekeeper issues out. Don't give a phone call and say, oh, give the matron 10 bags of rice. When I come, I will approve. You'll be signing a blank check. Because as and when you do that, if the person increases the quantity, you might not know. In the system, we have collusion between staff and third parties. And like I was telling you, especially procurement. When you leave it in the hands of one person, he will have some suppliers that he can deal with. And so the market price will be there. If he cannot manipulate the market price, the only thing he can do is the quantity. So he orders for 100. He enters into collusion with the storekeeper. They will deliver 70. The storekeeper will receive 100. And then you have to pay for the 100. So these are some of the areas we have a problem. Collusion between employees, two employees or more. In our validation process now, we still hear unearned salaries. The reason is that, especially at the basic school level, the CISOs who are supposed to supervise the head teachers collude with them. So a teacher travels outside the country. Then he tells the head teacher to continue to validate, and then he will approve. Then they will share whatever he will remit to them. So for one good year, sometimes for more than 1 year, a teacher has traveled outside the country, and they keep on validating. That is collusion between employees. We also have a situation where if you, the head, you are not interested in the stores, the storekeeper and the matron can also collude. So that the item that they are supposed to issue out, they will issue out, but that is not what they will use. So these are all issues that bring infractions. So when auditors come and they call for the store record, they call for the matron's record, sometimes there's a disconnect because what has been used to cook is not what was issued out. Then the most dangerous one is the management override. When an employee tells you, head of institution, this is what the regulation says. You say, yes, I'm the spending officer, so go ahead and do it. If there's anything, I'm accountable. You are weakening the whole system, not only that control. Because as and when you do that, other employees will also take undue advantage. So as auditors, when we have audited, we prepare our report. And so I want heads of institutions to take some time off your busy schedule and then read the report and look at what I have put there and then respond appropriately. The first thing we do in the report is to cite the law which is regulating the activity. So if it's procurement, we'll cite the procurement law, which says that you should obtain 3 invoices before you select one. And then we'll come to the condition, what we saw on the ground. Instead of 3 quotations, you only took one and went ahead and did the procurement. And that's what we call the sole sourcing. Then we'll come to what caused that. Is it because you deliberately did that in order to benefit? Is it because you didn't understand the law? Is it because some of your officers did it and you signed? So we will have to identify the cause. And then we'll tell you that the effect is that when you do that, you will cause financial loss to the institution because there will be overpricing, there will be under-delivery, and there will be a lot of things. Even the quality will suffer. Then we'll give you the opportunity as management to respond. This one is during the exit conference when we are with you and we are talking to you. We'll find out why did you do that. Sometimes we can ask you to put it into writing. Sometimes we can just take it verbally and incorporate it into the report. If your explanation is good and acceptable, we don't include the finding. We'll leave it. But if the explanation is not satisfactory, then we'll say that management said so and so. However, we disagreed and recommend that the following actions should be taken. I've always said what takes us to PAC sometimes misapplication of funds. In GES, misapplication shouldn't be a problem to you because you are allowed to borrow between accounts. So if you have money for sports activities, but there's no sports activity coming and you need money for perishables, what you do is that in the documentation, debit the feeding account and then credit the sports account. So you are reducing money in the sports account and you are increasing money in the feeding account so that you have something to spend. When the money comes, you have to now reverse the transaction and pay the money back to sports account. But what takes us to PAC is that when we spend on feeding, we charge it against sports. And when you charge it against false, that's why they call it misapplication, because that is not the purpose of the fund. So when you want to spend money from a different account, just borrow. And it's a documentation. Sometimes one account. It's just the accountant should be able to do the paperwork to show that boarding account has increased, sports account has reduced. When money comes, boarding account will reduce, sports account will increase. He will reverse the transaction. Papa Moderator said, corporate governance is very key in our contemporary era. And so we will need to look at the policies, the rules, regulations, structures, and practices that lead to the achievement of the expected results. And Papa's results is that we should revisit Presbyterian discipline. Let that impact on our outcomes, and our outcomes should lead to socio-economic development of the nation. On this note, let me pause and then invite questions and contributions. Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for this opportunity. And personally, I want to thank you so much. I've been a candidate to the PAC almost every year. You always sat behind me. I had a problem with this unearned salary. We have first year student in school, third year student in school, then second year students will not be in school. And if you have a large school, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to know the names or to know all teachers. Last time, I hope you were there, I was asked to refund money. And sometimes when they are going, they will not tell you. The department head will not tell you. Assistant academic may not know. And you may think because they are on vacation and that teacher is teaching in Form 2, so you intend to validate the person. And invariably, you find out later that he has traveled. That has been my trouble. How do we solve it?
Thank you. Thank you for your delivery. Apart from the CEO or the principal of an institution who can enter into an approved terms on or behalf of a school, can any other person do same? Now, if such person cannot enter into any terms, can such person be held liable for his or her actions? Then the last one, what amount shall an individual purchase an item with VAT, invoice, or receipt? Thank you very much.
Let me start from the bottom. The item depends on the VAT receipt depends on the item in question. These perishables, we have some of them which we don't need VAT receipt. For example, contemporary, garden eggs, and other things. But if it's got to do with cuttings of fish, then you need to get VAT receipt. If it's got to do with chicken, and those ones that you buy from frozen items from the stores and other things, you need VAT registered supplier to supply you. So it depends on the nature of the item that will call for VAT. There are some that even we use annual certificates. But the honor certificate should also not be abused. It shouldn't be that every other item. Sometimes they will aggregate the items and then tell you that, no, this one you have exceeded. If you are buying chicken, and every day you decide to go and buy one carton and use honor certificate, at the end of the period, they will aggregate. And if you have bought 30 cartons, they will say it must attract VAT receipts. On the question of entry into contracts, the head of entity has the authority to enter into contract on behalf of the Director General if it's and council. If it's College of Education, is the principal of the college. He is a principal spending officer. So we call them principal spending officers. They are the people that we can hold accountable for whatever they do, because they are the agents of the organization. But if it's a board chairman, the board chairman is somebody who is supervising, the council, the board is supervising management. They are ensuring that management implements policies that will lead to the achievement of the organizational objectives. So yours is not a day-to-day running of the organization. So you cannot enter into, and moreover, you are not even an employee of the organization. So you cannot enter into contract on that. On the payroll, I agree that in time, when some students will be on the double track and those things. Yes, those times we had the challenges. But as HOD, it cannot be that for 6 months, teachers will be in the house. Even if it's about 3 months, it's understood. But there were situations where teachers left the country for 1 good year, and they were still being validated. And now, that is why Controller and Accountant General has introduced another thing, that you should bring your nominal roll at the end of every month before your employees are paid. This is a bureaucracy introduced. Because I'm imagining those who are in areas where internet connectivity is a challenge. So if they are unable to submit their nominal rolls on time, it means no new employee could be put on the payroll. You have to continue to pay the old ones. That is why we have a lot of teachers whose salaries went off and they cannot reactivate. Because the nominal roll must include the name of the teacher. And if it comes late to, controller cannot pay. So as heads of institutions, the first thing you need to know is that at least from 15th, call for teachers who are in school. If the person is on holidays, how long is the holiday? How long is the person supposed to be on holidays? And it cannot be more than 3 or 4 months. If they seize that one, at least follow up and then stop the salary. Otherwise, you'll be asked to refund. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Akandi. I want to ask one question. And I think there's too much of pretense in our system, and that is my worry. Because you spoke eloquently about misapplication, how to treat it. That is nice on the paper. But this is a school where I have itemized bill for recurrent expenditure, and I have perishable money. And for about 3 years, nothing is paid for recurrent, and the school is running. And we are pretending as though everything is so. So for how long will I continue to debit and credit a certain account? Because practically it is not there. I'm only giving perishable money, but I must buy marker for teachers to teach. So I'm looking at how can we look at this auditing as a purposive thing? Practically what is on the ground. So that too much of holding the law, sometimes it's like pretentious. For me, that is how I look at it. One aspect of it is that for about 6 years now, the same money given to schools remain today, the same amount. But we all know that cost has changed several multiples over the last 5 or 6 years. Even if you talk about last 2 years, within the last 2 years, we know that prices have multiplied. So when you give me 10 cedis 2 years ago, and you give me 10 cedis today, and I am supposed to buy things and pay tax to government as a government institution, I will not pretending. Because practically, we know that that money cannot service that thing. And yet, we are holding a certain law that says there must be tax. This thing, can't we look at it well? I don't get it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your challenge. But the law doesn't say that when you borrow, pay it within a specified time. The law says when you borrow, document it. So if the auditor comes and you have done